Hey everyone, we are going to get started with our class today. It's called What is HTV or Iron on Vinyl, all right? So you might be wondering what we're going to be talking about for the next 2 months. In May and June, we're going to be doing HTV iron on projects, and we're going to be just talking about how to use it, different ways to use it, ways to use the different tools that Cricut has available for you. Today, we're just going to go over the basics of what is iron-on, all right? So I am going to turn my camera around. So you should have your notes. We're going to be talking about HTV or iron-on, and we're just going to go over some tips and tricks for using it, okay? So first of all, HTV, iron-on, they mean the same thing, okay? You are going to see the word iron-on on like a few products. Cricut especially, you're going to see the word iron-on. Other products, you're going to see the words HTV, okay? HTV stands for heat transfer vinyl. So iron-on vinyl and heat transfer vinyl, they are the exact same thing, okay? One thing that people always ask me, how do I know if I've got like all my scraps in a bin? How do I know if it is a piece of iron-on or if it is a piece of adhesive vinyl? Because, you know, sometimes you're not as organized as you hope you could be, right? So I'm going to grab a little piece of white iron-on here. And then I also have a piece of white vinyl. Oh, that's yellow. Let me grab a white. There we go. Okay, so here we have a piece of iron-on and we have a piece of adhesive vinyl, okay? Occasionally, like I said, sometimes you have all of these thrown in a bin and you're kind of wondering, okay, well, is that adhesive vinyl or is it my, you know, my iron-on? I don't know which one it is, okay? If you flip them over, the adhesive vinyl is going to have a grid on the back. Okay, the iron-on vinyl is going to have a shiny side on the back. All right, so when these are both sitting in your bin, like I said, sometimes you're just not sure. Is it iron-on or is it adhesive, right? So I always just tell people, flip them over. If it has a grid, it's your adhesive vinyl. If it has a shiny side, it's your iron-on vinyl, okay? That happens a lot. Okay, so something you need to know about iron-on. Remember, your adhesive vinyl has like this little backing sheet. Whenever we were weeding our adhesive vinyl, we kept everything. Let me see if I can get this off. We kept everything on that backing sheet, right? I trimmed all my nails because it's gardening season and now I can't seem to grab everything. All right, so when we pull this back, you have that plastic backing sheet, right? And so when we weeded, we left everything on that backing sheet. Iron-on vinyl has a clear carrier sheet or backing sheet. So I'm going to show you a piece here that I cut earlier. You can see there's a shiny side and there's a dull side. That dull side is your vinyl. I'm actually going to trim off this little scrap. And when you weed it, and we're going to go over weeding a little bit more here in a minute, you're going to be able to see that there is a clear carrier sheet. So a lot like your adhesive vinyl, you're keeping your objects on that backing sheet. It's just clear instead of that solid grid. Okay? Now you do need some sort of heat source to adhere iron-on vinyl. Okay? I use the Easy Press. You can use a home iron. Before I got the Easy Press, I used a home iron. But there were some vinyls that didn't quite stick very well with the home iron. I had some issues with some of my glitters. Either I overheated them or I didn't heat them enough. You really can't control the time and temp very well with a home iron. If you are just starting out though, like I did my first year that I did iron on vinyl, I used a home iron. I didn't want to invest in a Cricut Easy Press. So I just used the home iron, and you put it on cotton, the highest setting possible. And then you just heat for 30 seconds at a time. Okay. And like I said, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Now I won a Cricut contest and ended up winning an Easy Press. And that's when I started using the Easy Press. And I will tell you, it is so much easier to set the time, to set the temperature, to regulate all of that with some type of heat press. Now, there are companies that also have other presses that are available. That's actually like next on my wish list. They're like the industrial heat presses, and that also works well for iron on vinyl. Okay. When you are cutting your vinyl, you will use a standard green cutting mat. Okay. You also are going to use a fine point blade. Make sure your blade is sharp, just like with adhesive vinyl. If there are any nicks in your blade or if it's dull, it can catch that vinyl and just tear it off the carrier sheet. All right. You're also going to want some sort of weeding tools, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. This just helps you grip it and pull it off the backing sheet. And then you also have to mirror your images. Okay, now there are some adhesive or some iron-on vinyls I have come across that it tells you not to mirror it. Okay, so just pay attention to the packaging. All Cricut iron-on does get mirrored. All right, the Close to My Heart iron-on gets mirrored. But I have come across a couple of iron-on vinyls that it had me not mirror them. So just make sure you're paying attention to the packaging, okay? All right, there are lots and lots and lots of types of iron-on vinyl. You are going to, normally when you buy your iron-on vinyl, it comes in a roll, right? Or like if you have a Cricut Joy, they have what's called Smart iron-on, and it comes in like I think they come in like a 60-inch roll, if I remember right. I cut mine down to 12 by 12. Now, there's plus and minuses to this. There's been a couple of iron-on projects where I needed an item that was bigger than 12 by 12. So I had to go out and buy myself a different roll of iron-on vinyl, which was fine. This for me is just easier for storage. And after a while, when stuff sits on the roll for too long, it actually just starts to take that shape and it kind of starts to get a little warped. So I like to try to flatten it out as much as possible. All right. I am going to show you just a couple of examples of types of iron-on. There's way more than I have. Oops, smacked my camera. Sorry about that. Your everyday iron-on is just kind of your solid iron-on, okay? There's a lot of different solid colors for everyday iron-on. There's also some different patterns. Everyday is kind of your, I guess I would say your standard go-to you're going to be using. There is a foil iron-on. These are really fun to play with. They literally look like foil. There's what's called express iron-on. Make sure you're labeling them, because if you take a look, express iron-on looks exactly like everyday iron-on. Express iron-on, though, uses half the time to heat it. So where this might take 30 to 45 seconds, this is going to take 15 to 20. So just make sure you have it labeled correctly. There's glitter iron-on, which is self-explanatory. I have some different foils here. Holographic iron-on. There's mesh iron-on. This kind of reminds me of what you would put on like a sports jersey. And that comes in both glitters and just plain foils and just plain colors. There's a mosaic iron-on. This is one, I actually have a plan for a Star Wars ship that I'm making for my husband with this one. And then there's also patterns. Okay, so all kinds of patterns are available. Now, there's a lot more than this. There's Sports Flex. Sports Flex is one of the new ones that's out. I have a roll. I have not used it yet. My sister-in-law just had me, she's having me make a shirt for her with this. Sports Flex is designed to stretch. So it's great for like your yoga pants, your active wear. I'm trying to think. There's bulk iron-on, printable iron-on. It just like keeps growing. They keep growing in this line of iron-on, and each company has different types of iron-on that are out there. Okay, now I also buy my iron-on in bulk. Right now the bulk items are on sale. They come in 12 by 12 sheets, and they are like a third of the price when you buy your iron-on in bulk. All right. So if you do a lot of iron-on, I would suggest you look at the bulk options, okay? All right, we're gonna move this out of the way. So you might be thinking that iron-on is just for clothing. It's not. If you follow me on my YouTube channel, you saw these little cuties. I do a lot of iron-on on wood. All right. Because this, if I were to try to do this set of words with adhesive vinyl, one, I can't guarantee it's going to stick to the wood very well. Two, it's going to be kind of a pain to weed it and get it stuck down. And three, since this is like a home decor piece that's going all over my house, you know, I want it to stick, and eventually adhesive vinyl is going to end up losing its stick on wood. So I use iron-on wood quite a bit. I have also done iron-on our albums. Okay, this is one of the Close to My Heart SVG bundle designs you can buy. And you can use iron-on right on our albums. So you could label the spine if you wanted to. You could just put something on the front if you wanted to. It's super cute. Okay? So try to think outside the box when you're using iron-on. Okay? It's more than just for clothing. All right? Okay, so we're going to go over just like some cutting and weeding tips. All right. I did tell you that when you are in Cricut Design Space, you do need to make sure you mirror the image. If you take a look at this one, when it was being cut, it's cutting backwards. Okay, because I had to mirror it. Because when I go to flip it over and put it down onto my project, now it's going the right direction. All right. Because the Cricut is going to do what's called a kiss cut. Okay. It's not going to cut all the way through. This one did, it looks like. It's not going to cut all the way through your carrier sheet. All right. It's only going to cut through the vinyl. Now I must have my settings wrong, because you can see this one cut through the carrier sheet a little bit. Okay. When you place your iron-on down onto your standard grip mat, you're going to put the shiny side down. Okay. So the shiny side is that carrier sheet. Okay. So you are going to place it in the upper left-hand corner with that shiny side down. Okay, and then like I said, it's going to do what's called a kiss cut, and it's only going to cut through the iron-on vinyl. Okay, now like I said, there are some companies that you actually do put it down the other way. You have to like really read the instructions. Like I said, there's only been one or two I've come across that it had me do it completely opposite. So just make sure you're paying attention to the instructions on your product that you purchase, okay? When I place my iron-on vinyl down, I like to use a brayer or a scraper, especially if I have, like if I'm doing a big 9x9 t-shirt design, you do not want any bubbles in this iron-on. So I'll take a scraper and I'll go across it, or I'll just use my brayer and I'll go across it just to prevent any bubbles from getting, from being on there, or wrinkles, okay? You don't want wrinkles or folds or bubbles or anything, because like I said, if that blade catches any of that, it will then just like start snagging and pulling the whole image off your vinyl. All right. Okay. If you are using an Explorer machine, you are going to want to turn your dial to custom. Okay. So I don't have I should have put my machine up here. You're going to want to make sure you turn your dial to custom, not to iron-on, okay? And I'm going to pull up my Design Space app here real quick. When the Explorer machines were created, there was only a couple of different iron-ons, to be honest. There were not a whole lot of iron-ons. Oh, come on, log in. So the Explorer machine, it worked just fine. It's not going to pull up for me today, of course. The Explorer machine, just that iron-on setting worked just fine, because like I said, there were not a whole lot of iron-on products out there. Now there are a lot more products available. Okay. So you're going to want to turn that dial to custom. And when we go to create our projects here, and we're going to start with the towel project. Yeah, it's not going to want, it's just not wanting to pull up my Design Space today. I'll show you how to choose the correct setting, but you're always going to want to use that custom dial when you're on the Explorer, okay? Because it's going to list every iron-on available, the foil and the mesh and the glitter, okay? Like I said, if you just put it on just iron-on, it's not going to, it's not always going to cut correctly for you, okay? All right, so weeding your images. This is just like when we are weeding our adhesive vinyl, okay? This right here is everyday iron-on. So you saw me already pull off a portion. This stuff is super, super stretchy, okay? And it tears easily. So you want to be very, very careful that you are only pulling off the unwanted material. If you happen to get under the iron-on and you end up pulling or stretching it off the carrier sheet, you're going to end up with some weird wrinkles in your iron-on. Okay, so just be very cautious when you're weeding it. Now, this one is a foil iron-on. It weeds the exact same way. You just pull it off the carrier sheet. To me, iron-on is a lot easier to weed than adhesive vinyl, because it sticks down to that carrier sheet really well. Okay. And just like with the adhesive vinyl, sometimes I'll keep a pair of scissors nearby. I'll keep, you know, a little X-Acto knife nearby, and kind of trim off that excess just so I don't have stuff all over the place. I mean, it's not like adhesive vinyl where it ends up sticking back down. as much, but it is much easier if you just kind of get in there and take off some of those extra bits. Okay. And this one is sticking back down today. This backing sheet is sticky. It does help with placement when you're putting it down onto your project. So you are just like your adhesive vinyl. You just go in and we're just going to remove, like I said, those little extra images you don't need. It is a little bit easier to weed simply because it's not sticky. I mean, it gets a little staticky sometimes, but you guys know when you were doing adhesive vinyl, you always had those little bits that were like stuck and left over and stuck to something, right? The iron-on vinyl, like I said, other than being staticky, it's not sticky. The sticky surface is actually that backing sheet. All right, so glitter iron-on is a little bit different. It is a lot stiffer. It can be a little bit more, because it's so stiff, sometimes it's a little bit harder to weed because it will catch sometimes. See, like that one caught and it pulled up. So you have to be super careful with the glitter iron-on. The backing sheet, the carrier sheet, is not as sticky. I have noticed too with glitter iron-on will go bad, which sounds weird, but it will get to where it's so stiff that it doesn't like weed properly. It'll like stick to this backing sheet really bad, and it will you'll end up with like a lot of residue. Like right now you can kind of see bits of glitter on there. When you have a bad batch of glitter iron-on though, you end up with glitter residue all over this backing sheet and it ends up all over your project. It's kind of a pain. All right, so I wanted to show you this little trick. Sometimes it's really difficult to see where you're supposed to weed. If you have a light box, you could kind of hold it, you know, with a light box. I like to take my little anti-static pouch and I'll kind of rub it in there, or I'll get some cornstarch, and then you can see right where those lines are, and it doesn't affect the vinyl at all. Okay, don't use a ton, but it does help you see where those little lines are going to be. Okay. All right, so we've done some weeding. Like I said, be very careful you're not, like this one, it popped up just a little bit. I was able to get it back down. Be careful you don't pull them off the carrier sheet. If you do, it is very difficult to get them back. And then sometimes you end up with like a mess all over the place where they aren't sticking down on your project correctly. All right. Okay, so layering and applying. Okay, you always want to make sure that your foil and your glitter are your top layers, okay? Do not try to put regular iron-on top of glitter. Now, I have done it before. It is not... I wouldn't say it's not difficult, but it's not always guaranteed that it's going to stick, okay? So it just recommends to always make sure your foil, your holographic, and your glitter are your top layer, okay? It does cause like a weird unwanted texture. When you put something on top of glitter, you kind of get that weird look underneath. And like I said, it doesn't always stick well to glitter, okay? And then holographic iron-on actually has it actually has a non-stick surface. So nothing really sticks to holographic, okay? So if you're going to use holographic, it needs to be your top layer for sure. All right. Sports Flex should only be used with other Sports Flex because Sports Flex is stretchy. If it's layered with non-stretchy, it's just going to affect your whole project. Okay, so if you're using Sports Flex, it has to be used with Sports Flex. And if you are just getting started, I will tell you the fewer layers you use, the better. I try to keep my designs to like 4 to 5 layers or less. I don't like to do too many layers. Okay. All right, so I'm going to set up, we're just going to do a mini project here. Okay, so just because I like to make sure I'm protecting my surface, I always put down our heat-resistant all-purpose mat. Okay, that just gives me just that added protection underneath. All right, and then I do have an easy press mat. You can use a towel. It works just fine. Okay, and I'm going to be using, we're just going to make these, I'm making these little bags for my VIPs this month. All right, so these bags, let me check the fabric real quick. These are little burlap bags if I remember right. I think I got like a 20 pack of them. Really simple. Okay, so we're going to be doing some layers. I'm going to start by first looking up on the, I'm going to try to get no glare on here. The heat guide. I did put that link on your notes. There is also this printable. So like if you don't have access to internet, I did put this printable on the classroom website. That Cricut Easy Press settings, it works for most of them, but I would always just suggest you always use the guide. Okay. We're going to start out because I am using Everyday first. I'm going to choose my heat transfer material. I'm going to try to not get some glare here. And then my base material is a cotton canvas. And I am using a mat. I'm going to hit apply. And I need to set it at 340. Now next week we're going to go over this a little bit better, how to work the Easy Press. It does say I need to preheat for 5 seconds, light pressure, that kind of thing. So we're going to do that for real quick. All right, so I'm just going to do a quick preheat for 5 seconds here. All right, so when layering your vinyl, you're just going to do partial heating, okay? Because like this heart is going to be layered on top of this heart. All right. It suggests that I heat this for 30 seconds. Now, because I'm doing layers, I am only going to heat it for half the time. All right. Because if I were to do 30 and 30, I would end up with crinkled iron on. It would be overheated. Okay, so we're just going to do 15 and 15. Okay. So right now I'm just kind of figuring out my placement to make sure everything's where it needs to be. This says to peel when it's cool to the touch. Because we're doing multiple layers, I want to make sure I'm peeling it while it's warm. It's not going to be completely set yet. All right. But if I were to wait till it cools and do the actual process it says to do, it's not going to turn out. Okay. So I'm going to just be doing a partial heat. All right. So I'm just doing it for 15 seconds. And then there is a difference. So this is something I learned. Warm peel does not mean peel it right away. Okay, that means lukewarm to the touch. Cool peel means that it is cold to the touch. Okay, so like right now, it is still too stinking hot to peel. Okay, it is not a warm peel yet. If I peel it too soon, the adhesive in the iron-on vinyl has not had a chance to cool enough to set on this project. So I need to wait until it's basically lukewarm, okay, cool to the touch. All right, so I'm just going to give it a few seconds here. When we're layering, the other thing you want to make sure, so like when I go to put this down, this carrier sheet here is not going to cover all of my edges. So you need to make sure that your heat press does not touch any of this iron-on. All right, so we're getting there. All right, looks like that is good. So we're just going to peel this up. And then we're going to place down the heart over the top. Now, see how this is not completely covered. I do not want my heat press to touch the rest of this vinyl. If it touches the rest of this vinyl, I'm going to end up with vinyl all over my heat press. So there's two things you can do. You can either put the carrier sheet back on, or Cricut has this lovely thing that is a iron-on mat. And I actually end up using it most of the time anyway. Okay, so we're just going to do this as a partial heat again. I did put the link to this mat. I use this thing a ton, especially when I'm doing wood projects, because it prevents any paint also from getting onto my Easy Press. All right, so I need to change my temperature real quick before I do my vinyl or my glitter, because my glitter is a different temperature. All right, and that is cool or warm to the touch. So we're gonna pull that up. And you can see this edge didn't quite stick yet. It's not quite set, but we will get it when we put all the rest of everything down. Glitter does have a different temperature setting. And this image I'm using is an SVG that Close to My Heart put out. It was a gift when you did a donation to Operation Smile. I think they might still be doing it. All right, so on that heat guide, it did tell me that I needed to lower the temperature to 270. It's going to be 30 seconds. And because this is my final layer, I am going to heat it for the full 30 seconds. Okay. And then this is a cool peel. Okay. So I'm going to change my timer here to 30 seconds. It's going to take a few seconds here for it to cool down, because right now it's way warm. And like I said, you're going to see these little bits over on the side. I could cover the whole thing with the carrier sheet again. For me, it's just easier to end up grabbing this little Cricut mat, okay? I'm trying to cool my Easy Press here. Let's see, I'm trying to think of what other tips and tricks I have for you guys. Oh, always, always, always pre-wash your fabric items. Kind of use a tack cloth or a lint roller if you're using wood projects. Do not use fabric softener if you're pre-washing your shirts. The fabric softener will prevent the iron-on from sticking. Now, after it's stuck and after it's adhered, you can use fabric softener with it afterwards. You just, when you pre-wash it, do not use any type of fabric softener. Oh, if you, like some children's clothing have a fire retardant in them, fire retardants will sometimes prevent your iron-on from sticking. We have a lot of oil field workers around here, so there are fire retardant clothing all over in the store. So I have to pay attention when I buy the t-shirts for my husband that it isn't one that has a fire retardant in it, or the iron-on won't stick. Okay? Oh, and when you are, so like this one with the wood, this was on a bare wood that just had like a re-inker stain on it. I have discovered that the iron-on sticks much better to bare wood or a wood that has a non-poly stain. If you put the polyacrylic on top or any type of sealant on top, sometimes it won't stick, the iron-on won't stick, or sometimes the polyacrylic will actually change color. It'll yellow when you go to add heat. And my husband, being a firefighter, looked at me and he said, technically you probably shouldn't heat that polyacrylic either, dear. So if you're wanting to use like a polyacrylic over the top, I would do it after you add your iron-on. Make sure the iron-on is either on your bare wood or a stained wood that doesn't have a poly finish to it. Okay? All right, so this is almost cooled down to my 270. That is part of this sometimes, is that impatient part. So you did see, guys, that this is like that, this backing is sticky, so it really does help with the placement. If you happen to have like a really small piece, Cricut does sell, and I actually have it in a tape dispenser here. They sell heat-resistant tape, and there have been times that I have used this heat-resistant tape to hold an item in place. All right, so we are all ready to go. We're going to pop this down on that glitter for 30 seconds. So like I said, next week we are going to go over the usage, how you use a heat press. I'm going to show you the 3 heat presses that I have. We are not going to go over the mug press. I will mention it next week, but we're not going to go over it because mug presses are actually for, they are for infusible ink. And infusible ink will be a different topic. So you saw I lifted it up and moved it. This heat press is not wide enough for the whole project, so I'm kind of doing a little bit of overlap, 15 seconds on one side, 15 seconds on the other. And then to really make sure it's nice and stuck down, and that mat is going to be hot, so I'm going to move it here. Always flip your project over and do it for the same temperature and the same amount of time. Now, if you're doing like a baby shoe, I'm trying to think of like a baseball cap, those are really difficult. You can't really do it on the back side. So I just always suggest to people, you know, do your best to get it as best as possible stuck down. Because you really can't get on that backside very well. All right, so this is going to be a cool peel. Whew, it's warm. So I am just going to let it sit until it's actually cool to the touch. I'm going to shut off my Easy Press. Your Easy Press does have an auto shut off, which is nice because I forget things a lot. But I'm just going to let that shut off for a little bit, okay? So any questions? Like I said, today was just a quick overview of how HTV kind of worked, how to kind of see the difference in each one. We just did kind of a fast little project using one of those close to my heart SVGs. Like I said, you can do more than just fabric. You can do wood. Like these two are both the wood on the wood. On my YouTube channel, I have one where I did a sign for October, where I did the letters. You can do your albums. I hope you guys all have a great, great, great weekend. Looking forward to teaching you guys how to use your iron-on. Oh, much better. There we go. All right, we will see you guys later.